Imagine you are sitting in a coffee shop right now. You are holding a warm cup of coffee in your hand. You are looking out a smooth glass window at cars driving by on a flat asphalt road. You might be holding a glowing screen, swiping through endless streams of information. Every single thing you see around you was once just wild dirt, raw rock, or an untamed plant. For millions of years, the earth looked a certain way. Forests grew where they wanted to grow. Rivers flooded when the rains came. Animals migrated in massive, uninterrupted herds. But then a very specific, slightly strange organ inside the skull of a hairless ape started doing something unusual. We usually think of human history as a series of grand plans. We think of brilliant inventors and deliberate choices to build civilization. But what if most of the physical world you see today is just a byproduct of a biological machine trying to keep itself comfortable? How did the quirks of the human brain accidentally reshape the entire planet? This question is stranger than it sounds. If you look at a bird building a nest, you know exactly why it does it. It needs a safe place to lay eggs. The bird changes the tree intentionally. But human beings are different. We have completely altered the chemical makeup of the atmosphere. We have changed the flow of the rivers. We have rewritten the genetics of plants and animals. We did not set out to do this on purpose in the beginning. We did it because our brains are absolute energy hogs. Your brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight, but it burns a massive 20% of your daily calories. It is constantly hungry. It is constantly worried. It is constantly trying to figure out what is going to happen next. That simple biological anxiety is the silent architect of the modern world. For a long time, early human ancestors did not change much. They used the same simple stone tools for hundreds of thousands of years. The earth remained wild, but eventually the brain grew more complex. It demanded more energy and more security. And that is when the accidental terraforming of Earth began. Let us start with the most basic challenge. That hungry brain needed more energy than raw leaves and wild fruit could provide. Early humans had a huge problem. They were spending most of their day just finding and chewing tough roots to get enough calories to think, hunt, and survive. The solution was not a brilliant leap of engineering. It was a happy accident with fire. We learned to cook. Cooking broke down the food before we even ate it. It unlocked massive amounts of calories. Archaeologists have found evidence that our bodies physically changed once we started cooking. Our jaws got smaller. Our digestive tracts got shorter. But more importantly, cooking changed the world outside of our bodies. Because our brains got used to cooked, calorie-rich food, we could no longer just wander and eat whatever we found. We had to control the food supply. We started clearing forests. We started picking the biggest seeds from wild grasses and planting them near our camps. We did not know we were inventing agriculture. We did not know we were changing the carbon cycle of the earth. We just wanted an easier dinner. We leveled mountains into flat terraces. We dug massive trenches to redirect rivers to water our crops. We destroyed entire natural ecosystems, all to feed an organ that refused to run on low-energy fuel. Then there was the social challenge. The human brain is incredibly good at keeping track of relationships. It is highly social, but it has a hard limit. Researchers suggest we can really only maintain stable social connections with about 150 people. When an early human tribe got bigger than that, things got messy. People argued, groups split up, cooperation broke down, but a bigger group was safer against predators. A bigger group was better at hunting large game, so the brain had to invent a workaround. To keep thousands of strangers living together without killing each other, the brain invented shared fictions. We created physical markers of shared belief to trick our brains into trusting strangers. We started building massive stone monuments. We built massive walls around our settlements. We carved symbols into rock faces. The natural world was no longer just a place to live. It became a canvas for the human imagination. We dragged stones weighing thousands of pounds across miles of rough terrain just to build temples. We did this because our brains needed physical proof that we all belonged to the same team. The earth was scarred, dug up, and paved over simply because a biological organ needed to feel secure in a large crowd. Another major quirk of the human brain is pattern recognition. The brain absolutely hates surprises. It evolved to be a prediction machine. It constantly looks for patterns to avoid danger. Winter is cold, so we need warmth. Lions are dangerous, so we need weapons. Food runs out, so we need storage. This quiet, constant anxiety drove us to control everything around us. We did not just change the land. We changed the very biology of the animals around us. Our brains noticed that some wolves were slightly less aggressive than others. We threw them scraps of meat. Over thousands of years, our need for predictable companions turned dangerous wolves into pugs and golden retrievers. We noticed that some wild cows produced more milk or were easier to handle. We protected them. We let the aggressive ones die out. We did not understand the science of genetics. We just wanted a predictable, safe world. Today, the vast majority of mammals on Earth are livestock. The wild animals have been pushed to the very edges of the planet. We completely rewired the biological makeup of the globe, all because the human brain is terrified of an empty stomach and a dark forest. The brain also has a profound spatial bias. It likes order. Nature is chaotic. Nature is full of fractal patterns, winding rivers, and jagged mountains. But the human brain prefers straight lines and right angles. They are easier to process. They are easier to navigate. As humans started moving goods and trading across long distances, walking through dense, chaotic forests was too mentally and physically taxing. So, we started making paths. Those paths became dirt roads. Those dirt roads eventually became paved highways. We blasted through mountains. We built bridges across massive canyons. We took the curved, unpredictable geometry of the natural world and forced it into a rigid grid. Look at a map of any modern city. It is a series of squares and intersecting lines. We built the world outside our heads to match the way we prefer to organize information inside our heads. We flattened the earth to make it easier to think about. We also had to deal with the brain's relationship with time and light. Humans are incredibly vulnerable in the dark. Our vision is poor at night compared to predators. For most of history, when the sun went down, human activity stopped. The brain felt anxiety in the dark, so we fought back against the rotation of the planet. We harnessed fire to push back the shadows. Then we invented oil lamps, then candles. Eventually, we created the electric light bulb. We wanted to extend our waking hours. We wanted to feel safe from what was hiding in the dark. But in doing so, we accidentally bathed the entire planet in artificial light. We disrupted the migratory patterns of birds. We confused sea turtles trying to find the ocean. We changed the hunting habits of nocturnal predators. We banished the night sky from our cities, all to soothe the brain's ancient fear of the dark. Imagine a typical day for someone living thousands of years ago in an early permanent settlement. You wake up before the sun even rises. The air outside is bitterly cold, but the thick, mud brick walls of your small house keep the freezing wind out. You step outside, and your bare feet hit a solid dirt path that you and your neighbors walk on every single day. You walk to a storage pit dug deep into the ground. Inside the pit are heavy clay pots filled with dried grain. You take some grain and walk over to the communal fire in the center of the village. You pass a neighbor tending to a small herd of docile spotted goats. These goats do not look like wild mountain goats anymore. They are shorter, they are fatter, and they are completely dependent on you for survival. You sit by the fire, grinding the tough grain with a smooth, heavy stone. You chat with your friends. You share gossip about the neighboring village. You tell stories about the invisible spirits that you believe live in the river. You are completely unaware that the mud bricks, The domesticated goats, the clay pots, and the cultivated grain are entirely artificial. To you, this is just a normal Tuesday. You are just trying to feed your family and stay warm. But in reality, you and your neighbors are actively running a massive, slow terraforming project. Your simple desire for a warm house, an easy meal, and a good story is slowly turning a wild, dangerous planet into a human zoo. For a very long time, this process was slow. The changes to the planet were local and contained. A cleared forest here, a redirected stream there, a new breed of dog in one valley. But then came a massive turning point in our history. The brain, with its endless curiosity and desire for easier energy, figured out how to unlock ancient buried sunlight. We found coal, then we found oil. This was the dawn of the industrial age. For hundreds of thousands of years, the brain had to rely on human muscles, animal muscles, or the wind to move things around. Everything took time, everything took physical effort. Suddenly we had machines. The brain's endless desire for comfort, speed, and predictability was suddenly given almost limitless power. The slow, accidental changes of the past became a global explosion of transformation. We stopped just clearing small fields and started leveling entire mountain ranges. We stopped just weaving natural fibers and started synthesizing completely new chemicals. The brain had fully escaped the natural physical limits of biology. The slow trickle of human influence became a massive flood that touched the deepest oceans and the highest layers of the atmosphere. We built flying metal tubes to cross the world in a few hours, simply because our brains wanted to see our friends or trade our goods faster. We wrapped the globe in copper wires and fiber optic cables because our brains crave instant communication. The accidental changes became deliberate domination. They lived in a world of immediate dangers, looking for a way to survive just one more harsh winter. They altered their small corners of the wild earth, just trying to feel safe in the dark. You live in a world entirely constructed by their ancient anxieties and desires. You wake up in a temperature-controlled box, wear clothes made of synthetic molecules, and stare at a glowing piece of glass that connects your mind to billions of other minds. You are the inheritor of a planet that has been completely redesigned by the quirks of human biology. The Earth is no longer just a rock floating in silent space. It is a giant mirror reflecting the brilliant, anxious, and endlessly hungry human brain back at itself.